Okay, so it says write an equivalent expression by factoring out the GFC, greatest common factor. I just abbreviated it, you guys, because it wouldn't fit on one line. So I just abbreviated greatest common factor. So if on question 1, what goes into all 3 terms is 5. So if I factor out a 5, I get left with x cubed minus 3x plus 1. There we go. There's your answer. Number 2, let's see. I can factor out a 3 and x squared and y to the 4th and z squared. And that gives me, let's see, x y squared minus 4 x squared z squared plus 5y. I think that's it. And then for number 3, my common term here is the negative 3x plus 5. So if I factor that out, I factor negative 3x plus 5 out, I get left with 2x minus x is x, and 6 minus a minus 4 is 10. X plus 10. And then for number 4, I have to write it in order first because it's not in order. So 2y to the 5th. Let me slide this up. Sorry, guys. 2y to the 5th minus 6y to the 4th minus 5y plus 15. So I'm going to group these together. I'm going to group these together. Factor out 2y to the 4th. And I get left with y minus 3. And then factor out negative 5. And I'm getting left with y minus 3. And then my common factor here is the y minus 3's. So if I take that out, I get y minus 3 times 2y to the 4th minus 5. Okay. Nice. All right. Awesome. So we're going to move on to more factoring. We're going to factor again today. We're factoring every day this unit. So it's just a whole bunch of factoring. So it says when factoring a trinomial is 3 terms. So ax squared plus bx plus c right here. It has to be in standard form. So it needs to be in this form, all on the same side of equal sign if there's ever an equal sign. And for right now, we're talking about a equaling 1. So just an x squared by itself. So how are they related? So I use this little graphic organizer to think about it, and it makes it kind of a little easier, I guess. I don't know. But you guys have seen the x before. I need 2 numbers that add to be b and multiply to be a times c. Okay? Now when a is 1, it just has to multiply to be c because 1 times c is just c. So I put the definitions as a times c because a is not always 1. So when we get to that point, we're going to use the a times c, and that will be a little bit later in today's lesson that we're going to do this, okay? So we'll use that. And I think you guys mostly know how to factor, but we're going to go over it just in case some people are still struggle with it. It needs to be in order from, again, the exponents have to be in order from greatest to least, so which is standard form. So I need to put this x squared plus 7x plus 12. So now it's in order, and I need two numbers that multiply to be 12 and add to be 7. Now I think, I want to say this, I think when you do your delta math, they have it switched. They have the multiply in the top and the add in the bottom, but they have the little signs there so you'll know which is which. So just be careful of that. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you put the plus and the multiply as long as you know which one is which. So give me two numbers that multiply to be 12, add to be 7.
Three and 4.
3 and 4, correct. So then the answer needs to be in the form x plus 3. Since it's a positive 3, it'll be x plus 3 and x plus 4. Done. That's it. Okay? That's all there is to it. So I do number 2. It's in order. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 27 and add to be negative 12. Okay. Okay, 9 and 3 do multiply to be 27, but they do not add to be negative 12.
-9 and -3.
There we go. Negative 9 and negative 3. Remember, it has to meet both qualifications, not, yeah, there we go. So it can't only meet one of them. It's got to meet both of them. So then this one, because they're negative, would be written as x minus 9 times x minus 3. That's all. Okay, and I think you guys are next. Okay, so do A and B, please. Okay, so I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 10 and add to be negative 3. It's negative 5 and 2. So I have x minus 5 and x plus 2. And then for the last one, two numbers that multiply to be negative 2 and add to be 1. That would be 2 and negative 1. So x plus 2 and x minus 1. Okay? Questions? Are we okay so far factoring a trinomial? Okay. So the next one, A, there is something with A in the next set. A in this case is 5. So the first thing I want to do, if there's a number with x squared, I want to see if I can factor that number out of the whole thing. If that number that's with A goes into all the rest of my terms. So if I look at my coefficient there is 5, and 5 does go into 40 and 35, so that means I can factor a 5 out of that. So I can first go 5 would be x squared plus 8x plus 7. Okay, there we go. So I factored a 5 out of everything. And now I'm going to see if I can factor the inside just by doing what we just did. So two numbers that multiply to be 7 and add to be 8. There's only two numbers that multiply to be 7. So 1 and 7. So 5 times x plus 1 times x plus 7. That's it. Done. So the second one has a coefficient of 3, and I want to see if 3 goes into 15 and 8, and oh my gosh, it does. So I'm going to take a 3 out, and I get x squared plus 5x plus 6. And then I need two numbers that multiply to be 6 and add to be 5. 2 and 3. So my final answer would be 3 times x plus 2 times x plus 3. Questions on that one? Okay, so please do A and B. I'll give you so in the first problem, I'm going to factor out a 2. And I get left with x squared plus 9x minus 10. And then I'm going to factor the inside of that. And I'm going to say, give me two numbers that multiply to be negative 10 and add to be 9. Well, 2 and 5, oops. 2 and 5 multiply to be 10, but they don't add to be 9. But 10 times 1 multiplies to be 10. And if I do 10 minus 1, I get negative 9. So that would multiply to be 2 times x plus 10 times x minus 1. Okay? And then, nice, Tone. Yeah, Tone. Nice, Jalen. Okay, and then on the second one, or number B, sorry, what can I take out of each term? Well, I can take a 5x out of each term, and that leaves me with x squared plus 11x plus 28. And then I need two numbers that multiply to be 28 and add to be 11. And that's 7 and 4. So 5x times x plus 7 times x plus 4. Okay? Okay. So then you guys are going to go ahead and, oh, not you guys, me, because it's the numbers, 1 and 2. This one says factor, again, I'm just factoring it. So the one thing we want when we're factoring is to make sure my x squared is positive, or whatever my biggest exponent happens to be, is positive. So on this one, I have a negative x squared. If you can see this right here, it's a negative x squared. So in order to get that to be positive, I'm just going to factor out a negative 1. Well, let me rewrite it in the right order first. Let's go with that. So it would be negative x squared plus x plus 56, right? And then I need this, again, just reiterate this. This needs to be positive. So in order to get that to be positive, I'm going to factor out a negative 1. So I'd get x squared minus x minus 56. And then I can do the same thing that I've been doing. So I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 56 and add to be negative 1. And I think that it's negative 8 and 7. I think 8 times 7 is 56. Woo. Yeah, it is. Okay, so that would be negative 1 times x minus 8 times x plus 7. Done. Okay, so the next one, similar thing, write it in the right order. So negative x cubed plus 4x squared plus 32x. So I need this to be positive, so I'm going to factor something out. And because I have an x in every term, I'm going to factor out a negative x this time. So that would be x squared minus 4x minus 32. And then I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 32 and add to be negative 4. I think that's going to be 8 and 4. And then because I need it to add to be a negative 4, it should be negative 8. Okay, so negative x times x minus 8 times x plus 4. Questions? Okay, so I'll give you another couple minutes to do A and B. So I'm going to pop. So I need to write it in order first. So I've got negative, oh, okay. I've got negative x cubed plus 5x squared plus 24x. And then I need this to be a positive, plus it's got an extra an x in every term. So I'm going to factor out a negative x. So I've got x squared plus 5x. Oops, not plus 5, sorry. That should be a minus 5. Minus 5 minus 24. And then I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 24 and add to be negative 5. And I think everyone in here got that right, is negative 8 and 3. Everyone who's put an answer in so far. Negative x times x minus 8 times x plus 3. So Ethan, I just want to say you just forgot your negative signs. So remember, I had to, in order to get what you got, you had to factor out a negative sign. Are you okay with that? And I don't know if it was just an oversight and you didn't type it in or what. So there you go. Okay, so again, I have a negative x squared and it has to be positive. So I'm going to factor out a negative 1, and that leaves me with x squared minus x minus 90. So give me two numbers that multiply to be negative 90 and add to be negative 9. Negative 1, I'm thinking that's 10 and 9. And then negative 10, because it wants to be a negative 1. So it would factor to negative 1 times x minus 10, x times x plus 9. Okay? Alrighty. So not too bad. Factoring is pretty easy when x equals 1, or the number that's with x, my coefficient with x, factors out of the whole thing. So pretty easy. Gets a little more complicated when my coefficient is not 1 and it cannot be factored out. So I can't factor it out of 3 and 4. Sorry, 4 and 4. 3 doesn't go into it. So there's a couple different methods that you can do. There's the one that I learned when I was your guys' age, which was guess and check. So I can guess and check and get it right. Sometimes, depending on the multiples and what numbers my A and C are, guess and check takes forever to do. And then a couple years ago, I was still in teaching middle school, so it was more than a couple years ago. Somebody showed me the method I'm going to teach you now, and there is no guessing, there's no checking, and that's why I like it, because it's maybe a little longer, it's a little more involved, but I'm not guessing at what my answer is. I know what it is, and it's kind of like I'm going to kind of be doing maybe some grouping, factoring by grouping. You can also think of that way. Only I'm going to be using some graphic organizers that help with that. So it's pretty much factoring by grouping with some little visual, some graphic organizers. So I know that I can't factor out a 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, I guess I'm going to call it multiplication table. And it is a multiplication table, right? It's when I multiply using a box. So what I mean is, if I have, and I'm just going to come over here as a side note because I kind of want you guys to understand what I'm doing. If I have 3x plus 5 times 2x minus 6, I can FOIL this, right? You guys know that. Or I can use this little multiplication box that says 3x plus 5 and 2x minus 6, and I multiply because it's a multiplication table, right? 2x times 3x is 6x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. 3x times negative 6 is negative 18x, and then negative 30. So I'm going to use this method in reverse. I know I can find, they have given me enough information here that I can find everything that goes inside the box. And then what I do is I factor to get the outside of the box. That's the factor, that's the grouping part. So I'm going to fill in my multiplication table here with the information they've given me. And this top box is always the first term, 3x squared. Okay, the top left box. And the bottom right box is always whatever c is negative 4. As you can see, this would be 6x squared minus 8x minus 30. So here's ax squared plus bx plus c. So my top box is always the ax squared, or just the ax squared, and the bottom box is my last term. That's how it works out every time you multiply it out. Now I need to find the terms that go in this box and this box. Okay, my two opposite boxes. And this is where our definition comes in, where I said it adds to be b and multiplies to be a times c. So I'm going to do my little graphic organizer here. It still needs to add to be negative 4. Whatever my middle term is, still has to add to be that term. Because look, these two numbers add to form this term. So it still has to add to be that middle term. And then it's going to multiply to be a times c. A times c. 3 times negative 4. So negative 12. So give me two numbers that multiply to be negative 12 and add to be negative 4. Okay. Negative 6 and 2, I think that is, okay? Yeah, that's right. So when I'm putting these into my box, it doesn't matter which one I put them in. It doesn't matter. I usually just start with a negative 6x here and 2x here. Just put them in order, however I wrote them in here, from left to right and then left to right. That's just... it doesn't matter. I'm going to get the same answer no matter where I put them. If I put the 6x and the 2x in the opposite boxes, it doesn't matter. Okay, so here comes the grouping. I've already kind of got them grouped a little bit. So I don't want to... okay, we're going to finish this and then we'll talk about the factoring by grouping. Okay, now I'm just going to factor. So I'm going to factor... I'm going to factor my rows, so factor rows, and then I'm going to factor my columns, and it doesn't matter, I could factor my columns first and my rows, it doesn't matter, as long as I'm doing them both. So I'm going to factor here, what goes into 3x squared and 2x? Well, that would be x. And what goes into negative 6x and negative 4? Negative 2. And then I'm going to factor my columns. So what goes into 3x squared and negative 6x? Well, that would be 3x. And what goes into 2x and negative 4? Well, that would be 2. And if you need, you can check yourself, because we know the inside of the box is correct. I can just check by multiplying to make sure everything's correct. X times 3x is 3x squared. X times 2 is 2x. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Okay? I know I'm taking a long time on this explanation, but I want to make sure that no one's asking questions, so I'm just going to keep going on. I want to make sure that you guys kind of understand, even though you're not asking questions. I'm trying to go slow enough that you kind of understand. So that my answer is just whatever I factored out on there. So my answer would be 3x plus 2 times x minus 2. And it gives me the correct answer every time. Whereas guess and check, I can get the right answer eventually, but who knows how long it's going to take. I know this took a long time because I was explaining it and doing some other things. But once you get used to it, it's not too bad. Okay, I've got like 3 other examples to do, so I'm going to keep going unless you have questions. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, basically. First, I want to check my coefficient, which is 10. And does 10 go into any of the rest of the terms? Or is there anything I can factor out? No, there's not. So I've got a 10, a 7, and a 12. So I'm going to draw my factoring box. Not very good, obviously. And I've got 10x squared here and negative 12 down here. Then I need two numbers that still add to be 7. It still has to be that middle number. And multiply to be a times c. So a times c is negative 120. Oh, I think I should have figured this one out. Well, it can't be 6 and 10. No, 15. Oh, it might be 15. 120 divided by 15. Okay, 15 and 8. Okay, so then I have 15x and negative 8x. And I just want to say this. I do want to talk about how I found 15 and 8. I just took a negative 20 and I took my calculator, even though it's on my phone, my calculator, and I just started dividing. I said, first I did 12 and 10. That doesn't work, of course. 6 and 20 doesn't work. 30 and 4 doesn't work, as well as 40 and 4 doesn't work. So I had to start thinking other numbers. So I just do 120 divided by 10, 120 divided by 11, 120 divided by 12, until I get a number that's going to work with 120, multiply to be negative 120 and add to be 7. So that happened to be 15 and negative 8. So I just take my calculator and start dividing until I find the pair that works for me. And that's how I do it. You can do it other ways, I guess. I have to use a calculator once I get to the bigger numbers. But that's all I wanted to say about that. Okay, now I'm going to factor, and I'm going to factor my columns first this time. Doesn't matter. So what goes into 10x squared and 15x? So 10x squared, I'm going to factor this way first. 10x squared and 15x is 5. And that's why I shouldn't switch to highlighter. 5x. And then in this row, if I factor negative 8x and negative 12, I think that's negative 4. And then I want to factor this way. And let's see, 8 and 10 would be 2x. And 15 and 12 should be 3. Okay, so double check real quick. 5x times 2x is 10x squared. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8. 5x times 3 is 15x. And 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So my factors would be 5x minus 4 times 2x plus 3. Questions? Okay. Oh. So here we go on the third one, doing the same thing. So my boxes are getting worse. And I've got 12x squared and 6y squared. Okay, so don't freak out because there's another variable. It's okay if I have 12 on one side and y on the other. And this is the one case where my exponents don't have to be in order from least to greatest. It'll kind of go down and up. So x to the first, x to the second, x, y to the second. So it should go 2, 1, 2. 2, 1, 2. Okay? So just like what I've been doing, I need to find two numbers that add to be negative 17 and multiply to be 72. Yeah, that's right. Okay, what multiply? 9 and 8. Okay, 9 and 8, and they're both negative. So this would be negative 9xy and negative 8xy. I should have made my box bigger. So if I factor this, 12x squared and negative 8xy, 4x, and negative 9xy and 6y squared, 3y. 12x squared and negative 9x squared would be 3x. And 8xy and 6y squared should be 2y. Okay, I do have a problem with this. Can anyone tell me what my problem is? Yeah, the negatives. Good, Kim. So when I multiply this back out, my negatives don't work. 3x times 3y is not negative 9y squared. And 4x times 2y is not negative 8xy. But 2y times 3y gives me positive 6y squared. What happens? So this is the one case where my negatives don't factor out. If they're both negatives, I usually just factor out a negative. But if I have a negative and a positive, I don't. I just factor it out as a positive. So this is a one situation where you have to think about it. If I have a negative here and here, and then I have to start thinking about my signs. So this is a negative. If I put a negative 2 here and a negative 3 here, a negative times a negative gives me a positive. And now the multiplication table works because negative 2y times 4x is negative 8x. And 3x times negative 3y is negative 9. Okay, so just be careful on this one particular situation that you have to watch your negatives. And that's why I always say check your once I've got it factored, just double check to make sure all my answers are right, because in that case, my negatives weren't correct. So I wouldn't quite, if I would have multiplied it out, I wouldn't have quite got the correct answer. So just make sure you're double checking. So I have 3x minus 2y times 4x minus 3y. Done. Questions? Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then you guys have, I think, 4 problems to work on, and then we'll be done for the day. Try and make my box a little bigger this time. Okay, so I've got 4x squared and 9y squared. And I need 2 numbers to add to be 12 and multiply to be 36. Oh, okay, I think that would be 6 and 6. So this would be 6xy and 6xy. So if I factor, I'm going to get 2x and 3y. And here I'm going to get 2x and 3y. So I can write my answer 2 different ways. I can say 2x plus 3y times 2x plus 3y. Or I can just write it as 2x plus 3y squared. Okay? Okay, so since you're not asking any questions, I'm going to go ahead and give you the 4 problems to work on. You should already be on the last two. Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, this is negative 144. Okay, 43, negative 48xy, 8x, 3y, x, negative 6y, 6 and 8, 6, okay, good. 8x plus 3y equals x minus 6,666,6y. Okay, so, and the last one, what does the last one look like? Oh, like, why does it look like I've done it before? Because I did it on my piece of paper, sorry. So I've got, wow, 6x squared, 24y squared. I need two numbers that multiply to be 144 and add to be 25, and I think that's 16 and 9. So 16xy, 9xy. So 2x and 3y and 3y and 8y. So 3y plus 8y and 2x plus 3y. So just be careful that you watch your signs. I think I saw someone put in an answer that had both negatives here, a negative and a negative. They put negative 8y and negative 3y, but there's no negatives anywhere in the problem. Not even up here is there any negatives, so there wouldn't be no negatives in the factoring. Good job. I just wanted to go through and finish those, even though not everyone had an answer in the chat yet.